Hello, my name is Michael Siebold and I'm responsible for product stewardship in the life science business of Merck KGaA Darmstadt, Germany. Our mission is to advance product stewardship into the modern digital era, forging a safe and sustainable future in collaboration with our stakeholders. We are idea generators, conceptualizers, and implementers who use proper prototyping to push transformation. And every groundbreaking idea needs proper funding to become a game-changing innovation. In this last roundtable, I will share insights into our journey towards chemicals sustainability.
Hi, my name is Carina and I'm the head of sustainability in BYK. We believe that implementing a sustainability investment roadmap is crucial for our future. Our approach is clear target setting, investing in innovative technologies, and continuously track our progress. For example, we have committed to Science-Based Target Initiative to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions of the company. We believe that integrating the sustainability into the core strategy, we are able to create value for our stakeholder and contribute to a more sustainable future.
I'm Joel Tickner, Executive Director of Change Chemistry and also Professor and Director of the Sustainable Chemistry Catalyst, a research initiative of the Lowell Center for Sustainable Production at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. Our work with the Investor Environmental Health Network has demonstrated a clear need for investors to understand the challenges and opportunities of investment to grow sustainable chemistry from early stage to scale in the marketplace. On this panel, I'll discuss the strategic approach to transition finance for sustainable chemicals and materials that evolved out of our collaboration. That approach has a number of elements ranging from the research and education on the risks of current chemistry, opportunities and benefits of investment and engagement with private and public sector investors to develop a clear strategy that aligns finance and patient capital to address the key needs for growing chemistries that are both safer and more sustainable.
Hello, my name is Larisa Ruoff. I'm the Director of Shareholder Advocacy for the Sustainability Group of Loring, Wolcott, and Coolidge. Loring, Wolcott, and Coolidge is an investment manager and trust company that traces its roots back to the early 1800s. The Sustainability Group, founded by industry pioneer Amy Dominy, has been exclusively focused on sustainable investing for more than 30 years. On behalf of our clients, we build collaborative relationships with our portfolio companies to encourage increased transparency and improved corporate practices on a variety of issues, including chemicals management. In this roundtable, I want to make the case for why we believe companies should proactively understand and address their long-term chemicals-related risk and highlight best practice to help companies on their journey in this area. Thank you.
The Investors Initiative on Hazardous Chemicals, IIHC, has seen unprecedented growth over the last 3 years. This momentum shows that investors are ready to drive the change, but they need the right tools. First, more transparency with clear data. Second, harmonized definitions. And third, reliable KPIs to track progress for informed decision-making. We can align capital with a cleaner and safer future by setting strong sustainability benchmarks. Let's turn ambition into action.
A warm welcome to the last roundtable on Investment Thursday. Coming now from PowerPoint to action, or however we want to name it, a warm welcome also to all of you. Directly getting into the topic with a question where I would like to ask you to give a very short answer on it. What are key components of a successful sustainable investment roadmap?
Okay, I can start. So keep it short, right?
Yes.
I would say management buy-in, collaboration, data transparency, and continuously communication.
Thank you. Joe.
I would say there needs to be a clear roadmap that aligns public-private capital along the whole TRL pathway, private equity, public equity, venture, and public funding, and really builds alignment and, through education, clear metrics, as Sonja was saying, and an action agenda.
Thank you.
Well, and as I had that already in the video, it's really data. I really do think that we need data, and we need transparency also on what are we talking about. Yeah, if I have to explain that one company is talking about SVHCs, so substance of very high concern, on the candidate list, and the other one on the authorization list, it's a big difference. But it's very difficult to understand for someone outside what are we talking. So we really have to have harmonized definitions of what we are talking.
Great. And I think I'll just reiterate a lot of what's already been said, both by my other panelists and earlier. But I think in order to manage the long-term risks that are inherent to this issue, companies and then those of us who invest in them really need to understand that companies understand their chemical risk. So that means using independent third parties like ChemForward and others to make sure they know exactly what's in their products and processes and understand the hazard associated with that, that they need to have a comprehensive plan and ensure that that plan is effective in managing those risks. And then the other key piece is ensuring that you're investing in safer alternatives. It's been a big theme of today, and it's absolutely imperative.
Thank you so much. So this is already showing how complex it is, what pitfalls we also see the road down. So now let's first look a little bit more into the industrial dimension. Question here, generally speaking, what are key enablers to implement a sustainable investment roadmap?
Yeah, maybe I can pick that up.
Sure.
We talk a lot about, let's say, chemical safety and risk management. I would also just bring another topic maybe on this panel discussion because that's what we are working on now. It's really, for example, the decarbonization strategy. So you start talking about what do you like to achieve, what is your ambition level, and then you need a strong management buy-in to go in that direction. Because everything, especially in the area for sustainability, what we start with is a change. So it's new for colleagues, it's new for stakeholders, if it's in the company, if it's outside the company. And I think Sonja mentioned that, we just need to start talking about the same things so that we have a common understanding about what we are talking about. And it starts within the company. So when I would like to achieve, for example, decarbonization of the industrial sites, I need to start to set up definitions that the people in the company really understand, that we talk about the same language. And then you can talk a lot about, you can engage, you can have meetings, you can have workshops, but it turns out you need somehow targets so that everyone understands, okay, this is where we want to be in future. This is a target we want to achieve. Because we made the experience, we set ourselves in the early 2020 targets for decarbonization, but it turned out it was really not the right tool in that respect to really measure, to really track progress. So we need to have really dedicated KPIs assessed that we want to achieve. And then I think that you mentioned that we need a clear roadmap, a clear action point. So you get the person together, sitting down and then say, okay, how can we approach that? How can we build up a roadmap? What are the activities? Who is taking the project lead? What kind of skills do I need in the project team to forward with the transition in this case? And then start up to create data. Data to track the progress, data to see where it's the baseline, where do we stand, where do we want to be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, and then continuously work on that. And with all the activities, you continuously need to communicate as well, because you can have many sessions, and I've been to that with the colleagues, talking about the topic, but I think we mentioned that earlier this day. Everyone has a different understanding about sustainability, a different perspective at a specific time frame.
So to get everyone on board, to really go this way, to reach the goal, it takes a lot of time and patience. Sometimes I'm really impatient, I need to say, because I want to move forward much faster. But the organization, you need to get them on board. Mm-hmm. You cannot just do it alone. You need to collaborate, you need to work together, and it takes time. I think that's a little bit taking patience, get the people on board, and then work together on the respective topics.
Thank you. Joel, yes.
Yeah. I mean, well, do you want to go first, Sonja?
I would like to add something there. And actually, we see or we hear from companies that they do have the strategy, but they don't publish it. And I know that it's very, you need to be very courageous, to put your targets out there and saying, well, we even not knowing how to achieve that at the moment in time, but we are really, this is our target. But I felt that those companies who are that courageous, they have even a better push inside the company. But if you keep everything internally, you either make it or you don't make it, but no one realizes. So I also would say if you go out and expose yourself, it's even better.
I can agree because we made the experience. we published it outside, and then of course internal discussion starts. People getting aware, and then what's the target about? What do we want to achieve? How do we want to achieve? I mean, then you really see, okay, people in the company recognize it. They recognize what we are doing also externally, and this can be fruitful discussion that will really push also internally. I think I agree, Sonja.
But that's nothing new. So from a company perspective, we are also disclosing what the trajectory was sales with EBITDA pre, and we are then also measured against it. So it's only a different topic. So it's more or less...
Exactly, but it's on profits and sales and so on. Yeah, that's
we are used to do it.
Yeah, everyone wants to know it, and this is common sense. But on the chemical topic, this is not common sense yet.
That's true.
I guess what I would do is come back to basics. I don't think investors necessarily understand the chemical sector and the complexity, right? It is a really, footwear and apparel is complex too, but the way the chemical sector works, from platform chemistries to more bulk chemistries to specialized chemistries, it's a complex industry, and understanding timeframes for innovation in that industry, understanding how it's built on these fossil fuel foundations, and all of those things add to a complexity that this isn't steel, it isn't cement, which is the experience of investors dealing with energy intensive industries. So really that basic understanding and education around the need for long-term capital investment. Willard Dow in 1932, when talking about building polystyrene, well, I mean, not a good example, but I understand. But he called it. He talked about patient capital and a prayerful attitude. Right. Yeah. It's really about thinking in a long way. So starting with the goals, then building backward, because really this transformation is you're going to have to change. And what's happening is companies are getting bombarded with, and often mixed signals, like deal with climate, deal with biodiversity, no, deal with chemical hazard, no, deal with this. And often, we can see, like we're talking with some of our change chemistry companies, and they're like, well, our bosses are saying climate, not saying toxicities, because that's what our investors are saying. And then consumers are saying this. So how do we get a clear, again, it goes back to education roadmap, clear metrics, understanding that, clear signals, and staying a long-term course. So, a company may start down that course and start that, and then all of a sudden a hedge fund comes in and rips apart the company, splits it into four, and then, and then you're back to stage one again. So, I think we've got to sort of think about this as a long-term transitional roadmap. At the company level, maybe you can, particularly a privately held company can think in the long term. A publicly held company, that's a much harder thing to do. So I think there's a lot of complexity we really just need to have a conversation about.
All fantastic points. There's so much in there that I want to respond to. I think I'll maybe just respond to that last piece in particular that, you've heard from other investors in this forum talking about how just as companies are not a monolith, investors are not a monolith, and we are trying to we hold positions in the companies in which we invest for many years, if not decades. And so, again, just as Lisa said, we try to be partners with companies on these issues, make clear that we understand you can't just flip a switch, and that's why you need the understanding of the problem, the full plan to assess it, make those investments that will pay off in the long term. And I think the other piece that I really wanted to respond to was how much every team, both on the investor side and on the sustainability side within companies, is bombarded with a whole range of existential planetary crises. And I think that's in part why we get really involved on this issue, because we see chemicals management as so integral to addressing climate change. I mean, you all in this room know this, but for companies that are trying to address their carbon footprint, the chemical sector is the largest industrial energy consumer and the third largest industry subsector in terms of direct carbon emissions. So thinking about carbon without thinking about chemicals is just not going to get you anywhere. If you care about biodiversity, and more companies and investors are thinking about that, I think Sonja's group has absolutely said it best. I say this all of the time because I think it's fantastic, but addressing biodiversity loss without mentioning chemicals is a bit like discussing obesity without talking about sugar. It's really fantastic. Chemical pollution, as they note, threatens 20% of the world's red-listed species, those most at risk for, so there's countless examples of, yes, in many cases, you need to have those blinders. In many cases, investors are focused just on short-term financial risk, but it's really integral that both companies and investors have a holistic perspective when thinking about this. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Thank you. So, in a nutshell, sustainability goals, the ambitions need to be aligned, embedded, integrated into the business strategy. Otherwise, we'll fail. What is now the best way to do it? So there's only, we should do this and that, but how? How to get there? That we really have such a solid, integral part in the business strategy looking into sustainability.
I think as a sustainability manager in a company, part of my job is to interact also with the management, to have this very complex topic, sustainability, slice down a little bit. Because when you are not dealing with the topic every day, it seems to be very complex. You have different aspects. Sometimes people can handle that easier. Sometimes people really struggle because they just mix up climate change and biodiversity and chemicals hazard management because they are not into this topic so much. So gaining awareness at the management board about the different aspects that we need to focus on as a company is part of my job. So like stakeholder management, there where it starts. And then together with the departments who are involved in different topics to align on what kind of ambition level and targets we would like to set. So to discuss what should be our way to go and then address it again to the management to finally set the targets. I think that's how you step by step integrate it into your company strategy. But of course, I mentioned that, and I will mention it many times in the panel discussion today, discussion, communication, step by step to go into the discussion with the different stakeholder and then try to set the ambition level to work on that.
It's a Sisyphus work.
Yeah, be patient and continuously work on that. Yeah.
And I think it also depends on how, in our change chemistry firm, sustainability sits in very different places in companies, ranging from regulatory to public relations to R&D,
HR.
to HR. And what we found, we did a survey of VPs of business units of large chemical strategics about about sustainable chemistry and green chemistry, and what they said was sustainability was low down their priorities behind price and performance. So what that seems to indicate is the people who Larisa's talking to are not the ones making the business decisions. They're the ones filing reports often. And how do you connect that? Where we've seen maybe a better integration is where the CTO is also the CSO, and so the sustainability is built into the R&D. Now that doesn't necessarily align with the business decisions, because often CTOs don't have strong control over business decisions. But how do you sort of get that from an imperative from top down, bottom up? And that's a challenge.
Thank you so much. Let's turn a little bit into the investor dimension. We already heard about it. My question here, why should investors focus on chemicals-related risks? There have been, of course, lots of discussions already up front, but I also would like already here to have a spotlight on it.
Should I start or you?
Go ahead. Whatever.
Okay, can I also have the slide on? That would be nice.
If it's your slide.
No,
okay.
This is something completely different.
Oh, those are my slides. But there you go.
Here you go. And actually, investors are ready. Into the topic, and we heard this before that only 2 investors are here today. Nevertheless, we really see that the topic of chemicals is gaining traction enormously. And I said 15 years ago when I started with ChemSec, it was really tough. Yeah, I tried to find out. I looked at all the exclusion criteria of the SRI, so the social responsible investment area, and there had been old stuff, like agricultural chemicals in total, excluding. Okay, so they were very. I think quite old stuff, but this has really changed, and I show you how it has increased. Yeah, so this is really the last 4 years where we started with ChemScore and had the underlying information available for the investors to work on, and it really increased now that we have 18 trillion asset under management, and this is the GDP of China. Just to have a little bit of an idea how big this is. And in this investors area, you always count figures. So asset under management is a common figure everyone is reporting on. I just wanted to, and we can close that, or can I close that? I don't know. I just want to show that the interest is really there. They might not come to a conference for the chemical industry because that's probably not yet their part of where they see added value. But I can guarantee you these investors are getting more and more knowledgeable. We are working with them now this 3 years, and they gain on knowledge, on expertise, also on the specific topic. And I really think that they will question further because due to a few reasons. First of all, I think we do have the PFAS crisis, and this is not only about litigation in the billions. But it's also about drop of value of companies on the stock exchange. They have lost even further. So it really hurts if you are invested in PFAS. This is, I think, the most driving force at the moment. But also the other things is that they have realized that climate is not the only environmental topic. And again, as you said, for biodiversity, chemical pollution plays a big role. So these are the driving forces, and also that we do have assessments. We had these panels before, so it enables the investors to understand that better and to reduce the complexity and to really work with the chemical companies on that topic. So that it would be my take on it, why investors are really interested and that they are there already.
And I guess I would just add that even if you are an investor but not invested in the chemical space as we are, so we don't hold large chemical manufacturers. However, nearly every company under the sun uses chemicals in its products, processes, supply chain. So these chemical risks are inextricable to any investor's portfolio. You can't escape them. And so it is imperative that we understand what risks are embedded in our portfolio. And for us to understand it, we need companies to be disclosing more information about just how they are approaching these issues. And I mean, Sonja said it right. I think the PFAS issue has really been an eye-opener because it's so pervasive. I mean, it impacts companies that produce raincoats to companies that are producing advanced electronics. It really demonstrates that just because you're in one specific sector, it's a holistic problem. And we're also seeing the litigation risks increase, the regulatory risks increase, the consumer demand shift dramatically. And so all of those increase risks for companies and then in turn increase risk for investors. So it is inescapable in our modern lives. So that's investors just don't have the luxury to sit on the sidelines, even if they're not invested in the large chemical manufacturers.
Thank you. So switching now to the NGO dimension. Lots of questions I have here are already answered. That's good. So we heard a lot about what's ChemSec doing. You already showed also a directory of the success of companies striving for sorting out their chemicals management in a way that they are having a less severe chemicals footprint. That's what we have seen. My question now is, what challenges do you see in the implementation of sustainable investment roadmaps once we are looking into topics where we currently do not have an idea to grasp it? Does mean with PFAS, we know what we are talking about, but there are lots of other topics where we currently do not see the impact.
What do you mean? Other chemical groups or
nanomaterial, for example?
Microplastics.
Microplastic, nanoparticles.
Well, actually, we are always trying. Well, as I said before, in ChemScore, our methodology is now reworked, and of course, we would like to include more topics. Nevertheless, and microplastic is a big pollution topic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So besides, there are also hazardous substances attached to that, but the microplastic itself is a huge topic. But there again, we don't have even a definition, and there is in CSRD reporting. You should put a figure onto it, and I'm guessing that we will see. If we see a figure, that you can't compare any of those. So what I'm prepared to do is looking into the methodology. How do the single companies analyze that, and what is the methodology? Mm-hmm. And actually, we really need a harmonization there. And I would see it for, especially for the reporting now in CSRD, because, well, the lobbying was so effective that now every single company can decide what is material and what isn't. And we've seen the first reports out. AXO said substances of concern is not material. I'm thinking, okay, for a chemical company saying this is not material, well, they are not reporting on it, you know? So that means they at least in this year, they have not regarded as material. And actually, as a chemical company, to say that this is not material is, I miss the words for that. So we will screen that in detail. And actually, what I also hope is that we have auditors. Now we have all these auditing companies, and I really hope that we get a harmonization, because the auditors they have hopefully in the future, maybe they don't have the expertise at the moment, but in reporting, if I look into the financial topics, it's very clear what you are reporting, but I think in the future it will be also the case for the non-financial stuff. But it really needs to get harmonized. We need the comparison between the companies to really understand the risks and act accordingly. And also for the EU in the companies, it's very important to know how can you compare? Is this a benchmark? Are we good or are we bad? I think, and how do others better? And are there best practices around that we can copy? So I really hope that we will get a lot of information in the future.
I mean, I can agree. Even in a company, it would make our lives much easier if there are some clearer definition available for some of the KPIs for the CSRD reporting. I mean, also when you check on the EU taxonomy topic, I mean, the idea behind that the investors have a better picture about what is a sustainable investment and where should I put the money into that. I mean, the idea is great, but the information that is at the moment available, it's very difficult even for us company to really think about, okay, how can we integrate, how can we catch up the topic, and how can we really establish the KPI system. So it would make our lives easier if there would be more clear transparency and also definition available for the topic.
So we are getting lost in the details, in the various aspects we have.
I mean, getting lost in the details, a little bit, yes, because when you see the catalog of all the KPIs for the CSRD reporting, that is necessary, that you would like to report to. And when you start to dive into that, of course you use the materiality analysis to identify the topics that are important for the company and from the stakeholder perspective. But nevertheless, the level of detail is not so established yet that you can easily understand, okay, that's what I need to do, that's the KPI, I will collect the data and then report it. There's plenty of room. I mean, if you, our company, we have 4 divisions and we have 4 sustainability heads. When we sat together and discussing it, we have 4 different opinions on that, depending on which area the people are coming from. I'm more from regulatory. I have a very regulatory-driven perspective. I have a colleague who's more from business, so he has more than the business perspective on it. And we already start to negotiate, okay, what is the right way to cope with the requirement? And everyone from us would be very happy when we just had a definition available and say, okay, that's it, and then let's do it. Yeah.
But I really do think that we will get that in the future. Yeah. And if I remember back the REACH times, no one knew what is an article or an intermediate, and there were a lot of discussions. And I think the implementation phase is the most interesting one of an legislation. And actually, I also think it might be a big effort at the moment to get this data and to get the reporting done. But if this is set, you do it every year the same way, and I really do think that it is worth the effort, even if at the moment it's a nightmare. And I can understand that, but I really believe in transparency and that we are really able to manage better when we've got the data.
Thank you. As we are coming close to an end, Joel, you always try to step in.
Well, I was going to weigh in that I think we focused a lot here in the last few panels on publicly traded companies, public equity. There's a whole part to this that the chemical industry, the large chemical industry, has one of the lowest R&D rates of any big industry, partly because of the timeframes, the cost of capex, et cetera. I mean, it's plateaued since the 1960s. So much of the innovation happens externally and then is licensed or purchased, acquired. So how to think about that pathway from early stage investment, right, to invest, on the other panel I was talking about public-private, so that we get companies through the early innovations, through the valley of death, into the larger strategics, because that's where they're going to thrive. So I think we've got to, if we think about a roadmap, it's got to be complete, and it's got to have all of these parts of the puzzle, publicly traded companies, privately traded companies. Some have bigger influences from public investors. So your top scorer, SABIC, is a privately held, it's a government-held company. So investors aren't going to have a lot of influence on them. So, but the two largest companies in the world in the chemical sector growing are SABIC and Sinopec, which are both government-owned companies. So investors necessarily won't have a huge impact on them. It may have an impact on their customers per se, but I think systematically looking at this pathway, as one of my friends said, if we just took these publicly traded companies private, got rid of private equity, which is about short-term 5-year returns, and really focused on privately held companies that can have larger margins and longer time horizons. So at our Change Chemistry roundtable, we had a medium-sized company in Belgium talking about, I'm a family-owned company. I don't have to make a profit. I can actually invest long-term and think about this because I have that ability to do so. And all he was asking for is, I could invest even more. If I had cheaper renewable energy, I could do a lot more. So then you can focus on, like, how do I get cheaper renewable energy to this person so he can invest more in R&D?
Yeah, so thank you very much. So we conclude with that. As easy as that. Thank you so much. 2 takeaways from my end. First, for the time being, investors do not understand chemicals business. So we need to better align so that they understand our business. Second topic is about the transformation towards higher sustainability performance. This is a longer transformation, and we need, as it is multifaceted, to have a good understanding of those aspects which really matters. We have to set goals, and we need to follow up on it in the entire company, and we need to be transparent to all the stakeholders.